Hello, this is Thomas Carpe talking to you today from Liquid Mercury Solutions headquarters here in Baltimore, Maryland. Recently, we've been getting a lot of questions from clients regarding which Office 365 plans are correct for them in their business. Obviously, Microsoft wants to be as flexible as possible by providing every option for every contingency, but what we have observed is that often this creates a great deal of confusion as there are very many choices to pick from and folks aren't really sure where to begin in making the selection process. We're going to try to break it down for you here today in as simple terms as possible. There are different ways, of course, to look at Office 365 licenses and how you make decisions about those, including understanding what your budget is per user, understanding the licenses that you may need to replace. Perhaps if you have traditional Microsoft licenses you're looking to phase into a subscription model, or the one we hear most often is that people need to replace certain workloads or there are systems that they would like to transition out of in favor of using cloud services. Most times when folks are looking to transition to the cloud, they're thinking in terms of services or systems that they want to phase out or replace. By far, the most popular service that folks are looking to get away from, and a good reason for moving to Office 365, the majority of customers tell us, is their email service. This could be everything from running your own Exchange server in-house to email that you got with your internet provider or cable provider, to some other POP service or a hosted service like Rackspace and Intermedia, which may or may not be Microsoft Exchange, depending on how that subscription is set up. So when we look at choosing Office 365 plans, and email is the primary motivator for shifting out of those plans, the good news is that most Office 365 plans will work for you because the vast majority of them do include email as part of the service. That comes with a couple of exceptions. There is no email with the business plan or the Pro Plus plan. You want to stay away from those and select one of the other options depending on your specific needs. Beyond that, practically every Office 365 plan is on the table for you. So let's break this down and try to remove some of the complexity of it, because even at this point there are still 6 or 7 plans to choose from. Which one is right for you? The first thing you're going to want to look at is whether the user in question needs to have a copy of Outlook and or Office, that would be Word, PowerPoint, Excel, running on their local computer. If the answer to that is yes, then that user will either be leveraging a Business Premium plan, an Enterprise 3 plan, or an Enterprise 5 plan, depending on their other needs, and I'll get into those in a moment. If the user in question can access their email primarily through their mobile phone and on the odd occasion a web browser, whether it's a dedicated computer for themselves or if they're just sharing somebody else's computer, then those users can benefit from the Business Essentials plan, the Enterprise 1 or E1 plan, or the F1 plan, which is primarily for folks who don't work at a computer at all, like factory workers, frontline workers, fleet people, field service people, you name it. There are a variety of potential meanings for the F and F1 that will help you keep in mind what that's all about. I like to call it the fun size plan because it is like a mini version of Office 365 that's intended for folks who just don't need all the features that are included in the other plans. So, going back to the plans for folks who need a copy of Office, let's talk about those 3. The Business Premium plan is going to be best for folks who are on a budget. It costs $12.50 a month, and it gets you the vast majority of services and features that you would need in Office 365. Enterprise 3 is really the baseline for folks who need a higher level of security with respect to governing the users in their business, governing email, protecting the information that belongs to the company. So the difference between the Business Premium and the E3 plan is going to be if email security is important to you, if data leak prevention is something that is of concern to you. So, for example, if you are a federal government contractor, E3 is going to be the least costly option to meet the needs of doing business with the federal government, and that costs $20 a user per month. There are some other features in it too. I won't get into those here. The E5 plan costs $35 a month, so that's a $15 increase over the E3. But you will find that it includes a lot of features that are valuable to people who are running a business. So primary among those are services for voice or dial-in meetings. It can potentially replace services like WebEx or GoToMeeting. So even though it is a bit more expensive than the E3 plan, it could wind up being cost neutral or cost positive to leverage that for certain folks if they are able to move away from other subscription services in favor of using Skype for Business. There's also business intelligence tools and advanced security tools in the E5 that make it a really compelling value, especially if your line of work involves analyzing a lot of data or numbers, doing financial analysis, or handling confidential information that belongs to other parties. As a final note, I'd like to point out that all the E-plans can be configured in one way or another to facilitate dial-in meetings and voice calling plans. So at that level, you can use Office 365 to replace an existing telephone system and to make phone calls. The calling plans are an additional cost on top of the Office 365 plan. So, for example, if you combined an E5 with voice service within the US, that would set you back $47 a month. But compare that to some business class voice over IP services from companies like Vonage, where you could spend $50 a month or more on just the telephone service, and you wouldn't have the email, the chat capability, the Office client, all the other things that come with Office 365. Okay, let's shift back to the folks who don't necessarily need to have their own copy of Office running on the PC and talk about some of the less expensive plans that might be a good fit for some of the folks who aren't necessarily in the office working at a desk all the time but still need to be connected to business. If you are leveraging business premium plans for your primary employees who need to use a computer every day, then probably the best fit for your satellite employees is going to be the Business Essentials plan. This one is $5 a month and includes web-based versions of all of the Office applications, including web-based access to email. Of course, they can also connect to email on their phone. What they do not get are the desktop applications, so they can't open up a Word or Excel document or PowerPoint slide on their computer and get all the same functionality that you would expect from the full version of Office. If you are leveraging E3s or E5s, then the E1 plan is probably the best fit for you. I believe it is $8 a month, and like the Business Essentials plan, it provides a lot of that same web-based connectivity to Office 365. It also would allow users to participate in different services that you might be leveraging that come with the E3, such as Yammer, Skype for Business, so they would be able to participate in meetings and do chat, and things like that. Whereas I believe the Business Essentials plan is more limited in that regard. Of course, Microsoft is always shifting features around, so anything that I say today might not be true tomorrow, and the best bet would be to compare the two side by side and see which one fits for you. If you have employees who are hardly ever in the office at all, or don't even have their own computer, or maybe they work on the factory floor where they only use a shared computer, perhaps they have only tablets and cell phones, you may want to look at the F1 plan as an alternative for the E1 plan, because it is $1 cheaper and it comes with most of the same things that are in the E1 plan. I will say that there's a little bit less email storage with this plan, and there are other restrictions too, and obviously there is the requirement that they not be a worker who has been assigned their own computer in the office. If you have folks in your workforce that meet those criteria, then why not save $1? We hope you enjoyed this Office 365 video chat and found it useful. There's plenty where that came from and more on the way, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the latest updates. If you'd like to talk with us, visit our website at liquidmercurysolutions.com to schedule a one-on-one meeting. Thank you for watching.